Welcome back, Ascenders, to the Ascended Thoughts Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Crane. So listen, sometimes in life, there are things that happen. And sometimes in life, there are things that happen all at once. And when we are going through that one, when things are happening all at once, there's a lot of conflicting feelings of like, why me? Why now? For some people, that escalates into like, why do I always have this kind of luck? Why are things not always working out for me? Why does it seem like things happen for other people, but they happen poorly for me? And it's just like this feeling sometimes that people hold of like, I just feel like I'm being beat down, or all bad things are happening at one time. Why, right? But there's also too this higher wisdom that we have where we know that we'll be okay on the other side of it. We just don't necessarily always understand why we have to go through it in the first place. Like, why is all of it necessary? And, I have an answer for you, For some of you, you're going to find it lackluster, but it is what it is. And the answer for why that happens is because you need an arc. Life is a simulation, right? Life is us as consciousness experiencing ourselves. It's a story. It is a matrix that we are creating through our perception in our reality. It is something that we are watching play out right before our eyes. It is only natural to create a story that's interesting to watch. If you go to the movie and there's no drama, right? No ups and downs, no, oh my gosh, what's happening next? You're not going to want to actually watch the movie. Nobody likes a story or is interested in a story where it's like, okay, they tried and so they did. The end. There's no character development. There's no arc. There's no story to that. The reason why things happen all at once is because of the story. It's because of your story. When people write books and they write their memoir, and their memoir is like 400 pages long, right? It's because they have an arc. It's because there is some kind of plot, and you read it because you think it's going to be interesting. You will watch a biopic because you think it's going to be interesting. You think to yourself, oh my God, I actually do want to know what happened in that person's life. And then in the biopic, it's all of these ups and all of these downs, and you're seeing all these things that this person has been through and everything that this person has managed to accomplish for themselves, right? And you're like, whoa, that's a really good story. Well, it's the same thing for you. The kiddos these days, they have a saying, and oh my gosh, I just feel like it just pains me as a millennial to recognize that I'm no longer the youngest one. But the kids in high school these days, they have a saying, and they say, do it for the plot, right? Like, they don't know what's going to happen on the outside of the decision that they're going to make. They just have a feeling that whatever decision that they're going to make is going to bring the most amount of drama and the most amount of interesting storytelling on the other side of it. And so then that's the choice that they pick, and they call it doing it for the plot, which is, by the way, the millennial equivalent of saying YOLO, right? You only live once. And when I had first heard this, like the do it for the plot, something happened in my spirit where I went, oh, okay, like that's what life is. Like, that's all we're actually doing. We are writing and we are weaving a story. And if you're doing something for the plot, This is like you going, I'm going to allow myself to make a decision that may feel risky, even though it may not be risky. It can just be you stepping out of your comfort zone, you doing something new, you doing something that you have never experienced before. And for whatever reason, you're interpreting that as being a risk because you don't know what's on the other side of it, because you haven't actually done it before. So no, you don't know the actual outcome of it. But a lot of times what people will do, they go, okay, I'm going to pick the thing that I already know. Whereas in this particular circumstance, if you want character development, if you want to storytell, if you want to reach old age and then sit in a rocking chair, and then when you're telling your grandkids a story about the life that you lived, you need something interesting to say. And so then in today's day, the decision you make is the one that does it for the plot. It's the one that's the most interesting. It's the one that you will find the most fascinating when you're finished. It's the decision that makes you go, whoa, that was crazy. And so when people are like, why is everything happening to me? It's happening to you because there is a plot. There is some form of story development that is happening. There is something interesting on the other side, because that is how that's a framework of storytelling. It's always interesting on the other side of when things hit the fan. And in storytelling, shit hitting the fan is called the climax. And everybody wants to know what is on the other side. Everybody's interesting to know what's on the other side. And what's on the other side is usually very, very interesting. So next time you're in a position where you just feel like there's just so much stuff that's happening to you, so many things are hitting the fan, try an exercise of allowing yourself to be excited about the potential outcome and about what is on the other side. Allow yourself to get excited about what there is to discover, and allow yourself to practice that in order to come out of that feeling of woe me, I'm pitying myself, everything always happens to me, everything always sucks, life always sucks, and start getting excited about what story your soul decided it wanted to tell prior to incarnation, because your soul already wrote the story. The only thing that's happening is that you are perceiving, you are watching the movie that your soul created already. Why is it happening to you? Because your soul thought it would be a fascinating story to watch. Now you, due to coming through the veil of forgetfulness when you were born, have forgotten what you as a soul has decided to see. So instead of throwing yourself a pity party. Now, throwing yourself a pity party and feeling things are not the same thing, right? You may be in a position where, based off of what's happening, you feel that there has been a disruption. You feel like there has been an upheaval. Maybe you feel like your stability or your safety has been compromised. And you're like, I don't know what to do. And maybe those things are causing you a lot of stress, as they would, because you are a human and that's part of our human experience, right? Experiencing and feeling what's happening to you in the moment, which is part of the story, by the way, right? For you to go through not only the physical up and down, but as the mental up and down and the emotional up and down as well, right? Like, that's not the same thing as also like pitying yourself and throwing yourself these pity parties. Those are not the same things, right? Because you are supposed to experience the story that's unfolding, right? But allow yourself to know that it's simply something that you wrote. If you find that in life you have a theme that when you feel like shit hits the fan, and it always seems to be similar shit hitting the fan, then that is a clue of a theme that your soul wanted to explore. And so it chose different creative ways to explore this theme. But if you allow yourself to participate in the exploration of the theme, instead of running away from the theme every time you feel like it's happening to you, then the exploration of that theme can conclude a lot faster, right? This is what people call learning the lesson. People say when you learn a lesson, it stops happening, right? It's the exploration of a theme. So instead of being like, oh, this is always happening to me, what you can do is allow yourself to notice the pattern. If you get to the point where you're like, why does this always happen? That is the biggest, most glaring clue that if it's always happening, that it is a theme. And that your job in that moment is to explore the theme. Explore the theme, because that is what your soul wanted to do prior to incarnation. It was a major theme that your soul wanted to explore in its lifetime. And unless you allow yourself to explore that theme thoroughly, or allow yourself to learn the lesson that is in those situations that you find regularly occurring, it's going to happen again. But if you allow yourself to explore that theme, it'll stop. And why does it stop? Because it becomes a boring movie to watch. There are not a lot of movies that people have that they like to watch all of the time. And the ones that they do like to watch all the time, the people that have that favorite theme, right? Or that favorite movie, is because it's a theme that you enjoy. My favorite movie is called The Last Holiday with Queen Latifah, and it wasn't a popular movie when it came out ever. But the reason why that's my favorite movie, and it always has been, is because it's a theme that I really like. And the reason why I really like that theme is because when it comes to major life lessons that I have had to learn, my life lessons very much mirror the whole storyline of that movie. It is a theme that my soul enjoys, ruminating on, looking at from different sides, and experiencing from different perspectives. And so if you have a theme, right? If you have a reoccurring situation that's always happening to you, then allow yourself to explore the theme, because that is probably one of the main themes in your story arc. And you exploring that theme is now you participating in your own story. That is you leaving being an NPC, a non-player character, to you then becoming the main character in your story. You being spotlighted on the stage. You being the star. And so if you feel like, oh, I'm on autopilot, I really, really want to feel like I'm living again, then that means that you at some point along the way became an NPC, and you forgot that you were not only the main character, but you were the star of the play. And here's the thing about like the star of the play. They all go through things. They all have an arc. There's always a story arc, because that is the framework of storytelling. There always has to be a challenge to overcome. And that is what makes the person interesting. That is what makes you want to watch that person, because you either are rooting for them or you're hoping that they don't succeed. But regardless of what it is, they have now captured your attention. So when it comes to you being your own star, your own main character, allow yourself to get excited about what is on the other side of what you perceive to be a challenge, because the challenge is your main story arc. Get excited about what's on the other side, and then allow yourself to be in the story. Do you want it to end like this? Do you want it to end like that? How do you want it to end? It's kind of like those old books back in the day where you like choose your own adventure. For this adventure, go to page 27. For this adventure, go to page 101, right? And you figure out how you want the story to end. It's the same thing. But in order for you to do that, you have to become aware, consciously aware that that's currently what's happening. And the moment you say to yourself, oh, I hate that this one particular thing is always happening in my life. Why does this one thing always seem to be occurring? It is because, baby, okay, that is your arc. That is one of your major themes in life. That is what your soul wrote prior to incarnation. That is why. That is the answer. It's not because you're unlucky. It's not because you suck. It's not because you're unlovable. It's not because you're stupid. It's not because nothing is ever meant to happen for you. It's because you're the main character of a story that you forgot that you wrote, and you are now looking at the story as an observer rather than playing the main character and standing in your spotlight. If you do not want to be the martyr of every story or every situation that occurs in your life, then step on the stage and allow yourself to be the main character, and you can choose whether or not you want to be the hero. You can choose your own adventure. You can simply do it for the plot. Because that's what the kids do. When you look at teenagers, they are always doing dumb shit. Why? Because they think it's going to lead them to the most interesting outcome. It's not because they're dumb. It's because the hands of society haven't gotten on them yet. The older you get, the more afraid you become, because you know possibilities, possible outcomes. You're aware that good things can happen, but really bad things can happen too. And then because of that, it stifles your creative liberty. It stifles what your desire to explore, because if you venture too far out that box, it can get real dangerous out there. But teenagers are not there yet. Teenagers are still in the space of exploration. That's why so many of you listening to this ended up in random dudes' cars, underage, drinking a beer, or like in a field somewhere, throwing back moonshine or something like that. And you have been in very compromised positions. I gotta be real honest with you. At this point in my life, I'm surprised I'm alive. Seriously. I have done some real dumb shit. Some real young and dumb shit. But I'm going to tell you something. I have seen a lot of countries. I have done a lot of traveling. I have a lot of beautiful memories that I can't guarantee I would have racked up at this particular age, because at this particular age, I'm a lot more cautious than I was when I was younger. When I was younger, I'm hard millennial, right? I was YOLOing everything. Everything was a YOLO. YOLO, well, this sounds like it could be a moderately dumb idea. Okay, YOLO, that's what young and dumb, that's what you do, right? But through that, you always are following the paths that are the most interesting to you. And here's the thing. Teenagers do a lot of dumb things, but somehow, some way, you notice that the majority of them, they stay alive, right? And I'm saying the majority in a way of I want to acknowledge that doesn't happen for everybody, right? Some people experience loss. But if you're listening to this, you made it out. If you're listening to this, you probably have a sibling or a cousin that made it out. If you got teenage kids, right? They still here. They're still doing dumb shit. So it's a testament to you, or maybe them, or God, or whoever, right? Because because we are interpreting it as dumb, but is it dumb, or is it simply an act of exploration for the plot? Sometimes you have to just allow yourself to see what is on the other side. What is a thing that is most interesting? And then just simply pursue that. And if you end up in a situation where you're like, okay, I thought I was doing that, but I have fallen on hard times, or this really shitty thing just happened to me, then you can then go, okay, but I'm going to empower myself to choose my own adventure. I can sit here and surrender to this bullshit ass story that I don't particularly like reading, or I can choose page 247. Why? Because that seems like a more interesting thing to read. I can choose to be the hero in this particular circumstance because that would be more fun to watch. I, through my perception and my understanding of life, would prefer to watch and perceive this particular outcome. Therefore, I'm going to do this in order to perceive that. because this particular outcome, the one that I feel like I'm currently facing, is no longer interesting for me to watch. And so now, I'm gonna simply do it for the plot.